History of the Kingdom of France. Part 1. Origins in the early centuries of the monarchy, 5th–14th centuries. Chapter 1. Gaul, the Roman legacy, and the rise of the Franks. The Kingdom of France grew from the ruins of the Western Roman Empire. In 476 AD, the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed, and Western Europe entered a period of migration, chaos, and the formation of new states. Gaul, once a Roman province, became a battleground for Germanic tribes, Visigoths, Burgundians, and Franks. The most influential were the Salian Franks, who lived in what is now Belgium. Their leader, Clovis I, who reigned from 481 to 511, united most of the Frankish tribes and converted to Catholic Christianity, a crucial political move, as other Germanic rulers were Arian Christians. Clovis is considered the founder of the Frankish state and the precursor to the kings of France. Chapter 2. The Merovingian dynasty. Clovis founded the Merovingian dynasty, whose kings had sacred authority but soon lost real power. Actual governance passed to the mayors of the palace, chief court officials. This changed when Charles Martel, one such mayor, halted the Arab advance at the Battle of Tours in 732. His son, Pepin the Short, deposed the last Merovingian and became king in 751, founding the Carolingian dynasty. Chapter 3. Charlemagne and the Empire. The most prominent Carolingian was Charlemagne. In 800, Pope Leo III crowned him Emperor of the Romans, reviving the Western imperial tradition. His realm spanned nearly all of Western Europe. He reformed administration, issued capitularies, supported education, and centralized authority. After his death in 814, the empire fragmented. The Treaty of Verdun in 843 divided the empire among his grandsons. West Francia, the future Kingdom of France, went to Charles the Bald. Chapter 4. The birth of France and the Capetian dynasty. By the 10th century, Carolingian authority had faded. In 987, the French nobility elected Hugh Capet, Duke of Ile-de-France, as king. This is seen as the start of the French monarchy in its classical form. The Capetian dynasty, founded by Hugh, ruled for over 800 years, including its branches. Early Capetians controlled only a small region around Paris. Powerful regional lords, dukes of Normandy, Burgundy, Aquitaine, acted independently. Chapter 5. Expansion of royal power, Philip II Augustus. In the 12th century, things began to change. Philip II Augustus, 1180 to 1223, launched a campaign of centralization. Taking advantage of conflict between England's Richard the Lionheart and John Lackland, he seized Normandy, Anjou, and other territories from English control. Paris became the political center, royal administration grew stronger, and courts of law began to form. Chapter 6. Louis IX. The Saint King Philip's grandson, Louis IX, Saint Louis, 1226 to 1270, became the model of a Christian monarch. Deeply pious, he was known for justice, charity, and humility. He led 2 crusades, 7th and 8th, dying on the latter. He reformed the judiciary, banned trial by ordeal, introduced standard legal procedures, and emphasized divine legitimacy of kingship. Chapter 7. Philip IV the Fair in conflict with the papacy. His grandson, Philip IV the Fair, 1285–1314, was a shrewd reformer. He created the Estates General, a representative assembly of clergy, nobility, and commoners, to challenge Pope Boniface VIII. He also suppressed the Knights Templar and brought the French Church under state control. Chapter 8. End of the Capetians and prelude to the 100 Years' War. In 1328, the last direct Capetian heir, Charles IV, died without a male successor. French nobles elected Philip of Valois, son of Philip IV's brother. But Edward III of England, grandson of Philip IV through his mother, claimed the French throne. This dispute triggered the 100 Years' War, a long and bloody conflict between England and France from 1337 to 1453. At the war's outset, France was plagued by internal strife, underfunded armies, and a struggling economy. Part 2. The Hundred Years' War, religious upheaval, and the decline of the Valois, 14th to 16th centuries. Chapter 1. The beginning of the Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1360. War between France and England began in 1337, officially over claims to the French throne. However, the deeper causes were economic, control of Flanders, territorial, Gascony, and dynastic. France suffered catastrophic early defeats. The most famous was the Battle of Crécy, 1346, where English longbowmen decimated the French cavalry. In 1356, King John II the Good was captured at the Battle of Poitiers. Chaos followed. Paris revolted under Etienne Marcel, and peasants rose in the Jacquerie. Chapter 2. Temporary Truce and Charles I's reforms, 1360 to 1380. The Treaty of Bretigny, 1360, forced France to cede much land to England. But Charles V the Wise, son of John II, began a revival. His chancellor, Jean de Croix, reformed taxation and governance, centralizing power. Charles rebuilt the army, employed mercenaries, and used clever diplomacy. By 1380, France had recovered much lost territory. Chapter 3. Madness of Charles VI and Civil War. Charles VI, 1380 to 1422, suffered from mental illness. Rival factions emerged, the Armagnacs and Burgundians. Their struggle sparked civil war, severely weakening France. Chapter 4. English invasion and Joan of Arc, 1420 to 1431. In 1415 at Agincourt, English forces again crushed the French nobility. The Treaty of Troyes, 1420, disinherited the French Dauphin and named England's Henry V as heir. Enter Joan of Arc, Jeanne d'Arc, a peasant girl claiming divine guidance. She inspired the Dauphin, led troops to victory at Orléans in 1429, and ensured his coronation as Charles VII at Reims. Joan was captured in 1430, handed to the English, and burned at the stake in 1431. Chapter 5. End of the Hundred Years' War, 1431 to 1453. Charles VII reformed the military, creating the first standing army in France. The French drove out the English after the Battle of Castillon in 1453. Only Calais remained under English control. Chapter 6. Louis the XIV, the Spider King, Charles's son, Louis the Vair de Niernois, 1461 to 1483, subdued rebellious nobles and centralized authority. Called the Spider King for his web of intrigue, he crushed the League of the Public Weal and strengthened the monarchy. Chapter 7. Charles VIII and the start of the Italian Wars. Charles VIII, 1483 to 1498, invaded Italy in 1494, claiming Naples. This began the Italian Wars, entangling France in decades of conflict with Spain, the Holy Roman Empire, and others. Chapter 8. Louis XII and Francis I, French Renaissance glory. Louis XII and his successor, Francis I, 1515 to 1547, continued Italian ambitions. Francis fought Emperor Charles V, losing Milan but bringing Renaissance culture to France. Francis patronized the arts, invited Leonardo da Vinci, and modernized royal governance. Chapter 9. The Reformation and France's religious divide. By the 1520s, Protestant ideas spread. French Huguenots, Calvinists, demanded freedom. Initially ignored, they faced growing persecution under Henry II, 1547 to 1559. Chapter 10. Religious Wars, 1562 to 1598. After Henry II's death, France plunged into civil war, Huguenots versus Catholics. The bloodiest event was the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, 1572, when thousands of Protestants were killed in Paris. The Catholic League, backed by Spain, fought against Protestant nobles. The Valois dynasty collapsed, unable to manage the crisis. Chapter 11. Henry IV, first Bourbon king. In 1589, Henry of Navarre, a Protestant, became king as Henry IV. He converted to Catholicism, Paris is worth a mass, to gain acceptance. He issued the Edict of Nantes in 1598, granting Huguenots limited religious rights. His reign marked recovery after decades of strife. Part 3. Absolutism, the Bourbons, in the eve of revolution, 17th to 18th centuries. Chapter 1. Henry IV. Rebuilding France. Henry IV, 1589 to 1610, ended religious wars, reformed taxation, built roads, and revived trade. With his minister Sully, he stabilized finances and reduced peasant tax burdens. The Edict of Nantes, 1598, provided a religious compromise, though tension remained. In 1610, Henry was assassinated by a Catholic fanatic. Chapter 2. Louis XIII and Cardinal Richelieu. His son, Louis XIII, ruled under the regency of his mother, and later under Cardinal Richelieu. Richelieu's goals: suppress Huguenot, curb nobility, centralize power. He destroyed Protestant strongholds, dismantled noble castles, and limited urban autonomy. He founded the Académie Française and led France into the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, against the Habsburgs. Chapter 3. Louis XIV, the Absolute Monarch. In 1643, Louis XIV became king at age 5. His mother Anne of Austria and Cardinal Mazarin ruled as regents. After the Fronde, 1648 to 1653, a noble rebellion, Louis vowed to rule alone. He declared, "L'État, c'est moi, I am the state." Chapter 4. Louis XIV's rule, 1643 to 1715. Louis restructured government. Ministers needed his approval. He invited nobles to Versailles, turning them into courtiers under tight control. He subdued parliaments and reformed the military. His finance minister, Jean-Baptiste Colbert, introduced mercantilism, boosting domestic production, trade protection, colonial expansion. France established colonies in Canada, India, and the Caribbean. In 1685, Louis revoked the Edict of Nantes, leading to Huguenot exodus and economic loss. Chapter 5. Louis XIV's Wars. He pursued European dominance, waging War of Devolution, Franco-Dutch War, War of the League of Augsburg, War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714. Early success faded. By the 1700s, France was exhausted and indebted. Louis XIV died in 1715 after 72 years on the throne. Chapter 6. Regency and Louis XIV. Louis XIV's great-grandson, Louis XIII, ascended at age 5. Duke of Orleans served as regent. The Mississippi Bubble, John Law's economic scheme, burst collapsing finances. Cardinal Fleury, 1726 to 1743, stabilized the economy. After his death, Louis XV ruled directly but became known for indifference, court intrigues, and mistresses like Madame de Pompadour. Chapter 7. Louis XV's Wars and Colonial Losses. France fought. War of Austrian Succession, 1740 to 1748. 7 Years' War, 1756 to 1763. Suffering disastrous losses. France lost Canada, India, and many colonies to Britain. This weakened both prestige and finances. Meanwhile, Enlightenment thinkers, Voltaire, Rousseau, Diderot, Montesquieu, challenged absolutism. The Encyclopédie, 1751 to 1772, spread ideas of liberty, reason, and secularism. Chapter 8. Louis XIV, the final monarch of the Ancien Regime. In 1774, Louis XV, grandson of Louis XIV, became king. Kind but indecisive, he favored reform but lacked political strength. His Austrian wife, Marie Antoinette, became a symbol of royal excess. Initial reforms by Turgot and later Necker failed due to resistance from nobles. The crown fell deeper into debt, worsened by support for the American Revolution. Chapter 9. Financial crisis and ideological transformation. France neared bankruptcy. Peasants bore heavy taxes, nobles retained privileges, the bourgeoisie was excluded from power. Discontent spread. Pamphlets, journals, and Enlightenment writings advocated equality, reason, and constitutional monarchy. By 1788, Louis had no choice but to convene the Estates General in 1789. Chapter 10. On the eve of revolution. The three estates, clergy, nobility, commoners, had equal votes, despite the Third Estate representing 98% of the population. When denied equity, they declared themselves the National Assembly in June 1789. This marked the start of the French Revolution. The monarchy hesitated. On July 14, 1789, the people stormed the Bastille, igniting a revolution that would reshape France and Europe. Part 4, Revolution, Empire, and the Fall of the Monarchy, 1789 to 1870. Chapter 1, The Start of the French Revolution, 1789 to 1791. In May 1789, the Estates General met after 150 years. The Third Estate, frustrated with their lack of power, declared themselves the National Assembly in June and swore the tennis court oath, vowing to draft a constitution. Royal troops gathered near Paris. In response, on July 14th, citizens stormed the Bastille, a symbol of royal tyranny. Revolution spread across France. In August, feudal privileges were abolished, and on August 26th, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen was adopted. Chapter 2. Constitutional Monarchy, 1791 to 1792. In 1791, France adopted its first constitution, limiting the king's power. Louis XVI was now King of the French, not of France. He secretly opposed the revolution and tried to flee to Austria, flight to Varennes in 1791. He was caught, returned to Paris, and public trust collapsed. Political divisions intensified. Chapter 3. Fall of the Monarchy and Republic proclaimed, 1792 to 1793. In August 1792, insurgents stormed the Tuileries Palace. Louis was arrested, and on September 21st, the First French Republic was declared. Louis XVI was tried for treason and executed on January 21st, 1793. France went to war with monarchies across Europe. Revolutionary fervor radicalized. Chapter 4. The Reign of Terror, 1793 to 1794. The Jacobins, led by Robespierre, took control. They formed the Committee of Public Safety and began mass executions of enemies of the revolution. This reign of terror saw thousands executed by guillotine. Marie Antoinette was executed in October 1793. Moderates and former allies also fell. In July 1794, Robespierre was overthrown and executed. A more moderate phase began, Chapter 5. The Directory and Rise of Napoleon, 1795 to 1799. In 1795, a new constitution created the Directory, a five-man executive. It was plagued by corruption, unrest, and war. Amid the instability, Napoleon Bonaparte, a popular general, rose in prominence. In 1799, Napoleon staged the coup of 18 Brumaire, ending the Directory and establishing the consulate. Chapter 6. Napoleon's Empire, 1804 to 1814. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French. France became an imperial monarchy, not based on divine right but military authority and popular support. Napoleon created the Napoleonic Code, civil law, reformed administration, promoted education, conquered much of Europe. His invasion of Russia, 1812, failed. In 1814, Paris fell and Napoleon abdicated. He was exiled to Elba. Chapter 7. Bourbon Restoration, 1814 to 1830. After Napoleon's fall, the Bourbons returned. Louis XVIII, brother of Louis XVI, ruled as a constitutional monarch. In 1815, Napoleon escaped Elba for the 100 Days, but was defeated at Waterloo and exiled again, this time to St. Helena, where he died in 1821. Charles the Next succeeded Louis XVIII in 1824. A reactionary, he sought to restore absolute rule. In 1830, after issuing decrees limiting freedoms, he faced the July Revolution and abdicated. Chapter 8. The July Monarchy, 1830 to 1848. Power passed to Louis-Philippe of Orléans, who became King of the French. He represented a bourgeois monarchy, relying on wealth rather than nobility. Economic growth followed, but social inequality grew. Republicans, workers, and radicals demanded reforms. In 1848, discontent led to revolution again. Chapter 9. Second Republic and Napoleon III, 1848 to 1870. The February Revolution of 1848 ended the July monarchy. A second republic was declared with universal male suffrage. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon I's nephew, was elected president. In 1851, he staged a coup. In 1852, he became Emperor Napoleon III, starting the Second Empire. He modernized Paris, expanded industry, and built railways. Tonight, Chapter 10. The End of the Monarchy, 1870. In 1870, France lost the Franco-Prussian War. At Sedan, Napoleon III was captured. The people of Paris declared the Third Republic. This marked the final end of monarchy in France. Future monarchist attempts failed. Since 1870, France has remained a republic. Epilogue. Legacy of the Kingdom of France. The Kingdom of France formed over a millennium, from Clovis to Napoleon III. It exemplified centralized monarchy in Europe. Its history includes crusades, religious wars, empire, revolution. France gave the world ideas of citizenship, secularism, equality, constitutionality. Though monarchy ended, the spirit of French nationhood, shaped under the Capetians, Valois, and Bourbon, lives on in law, culture, diplomacy, and philosophy.